is the
The 3 P's.
okay. 3P, like the letter P.
The letter P. The 3 P's to the healthy mind. Are we on? He wasn't listening.
Did you put the title up?
I can always change the title later. Episode 103.
And I gotta find it.
Because I went away last week. It was a busy weekend, so 2 weeks in a row I haven't had a break.
Oh, okay.
The good news is it's not thunderstorming right now
And why is that good news?
because it's not thunderstorming right now. Peaceful. You don't have to worry about being struck by lightning or tornadoes. Or anything like
Okay. Well, sometimes the storm is peaceful too.
that. I like storms.
Yeah, because I didn't know it was a storm. I actually slept right through the storm. I knew it was supposed to be, but I didn't hear anything. So, yeah, it was very peaceful to me. All right. So, welcome everyone to today's segment of Nirodha. I don't know what segment this is.
103.
Oh, okay. So, house says is segment 103. We are still talking about how to develop and sustain a healthy mind. And so today, our topic on the healthy mind, we're going to talk about the 3 P's, right? As in the letter P, the 3 P's to maintaining and having a healthy mind. And the first P that we want to talk about, well, first, my name is Tiffany King, and Dr. Tran here allows me to be one of the facilitators or practitioners in her YouTube. Right? And we come together as a community and on different Saturdays, different practitioners. So this just happens to be the Saturday that I am here with you all. And we have Hal. So just welcome everyone.
I'm the sidekick.
Okay.
Trusty sidekick.
All right. Batman and Robin is the sidekick. Right, cool. So the first P that we're going to talk about today is purpose. Right? Purpose. And I think that even when wanting to transform, and which is a continual thing, right? Sometimes we use that word as it's just going to happen once and it's going to be done forever. But evolution continues, and so does transformation. But I think when you are trying to come into a healthy mind state, that it helps if you have a purpose on why you want to do these things, or what is pulling you towards a more healthy mind state. And the irony is most of us don't even realize when we're not in a healthy mind state. It's been like that for so long that we don't realize it. And so I know for me, in my experience, I never realized that my mind was not healthy until it was actual behaviors that were happening with it, and I began to have anxiety attacks, and they come in different ways. So the first one I can remember happening was I kind of stopped breathing, and I was driving a car, and I stopped breathing, and it was short enough for me to not hurt myself, but it was long enough for me to say something just happened. Like, what happened there? And so when I got the opportunity, I pulled over to the side of the road and was like, what really just happened? Because it felt like a quick blackout. Like everything went blank and I kind of didn't know where I was. And that made me really begin to self-reflect and see the state of my mind, because I had been in college and doing psychology enough that when I thought about it, I was like, oh, that was an anxiety attack. And I just stopped breathing long enough to black out, but not long enough to hurt myself by maybe putting my foot on the gas and going out into the intersection because I was at a stoplight, right? Which could have been really dangerous if I didn't come out as quick as I did. And so that's when I first started noticing that, okay, what is anxiety? Right? And anxiety usually comes from concern about what did or didn't happen in the past, or worry about what would the future look like. And there's nothing I could do about the past. Right? And technically, there is some things that I could do about the future, but having a worry state about it is not going to help it to um, come to fruition like I would want it to, right? And so I understood that it was an anxiety attack and what anxiety was and where it came from. And then I had to kind of figure out, what am I going to do about this? Like, am I going to just take it on as, oh, I'm anxious or I have anxiety, or am I going to really begin to do something about this, right? And that's when I really began to understand, or to not really even understand, but to acknowledge and know that, oh, my mind is not as healthy as it could be. And what's really going on is now it's suffering from a overwiring or overwhelmness of past and how unworthy I am. And I mean, I guess I'm going to take this unworthiness into my future too, because how is it not going to just come from not being unworthy in the past to being, oh, I'm worthy in the future, right? So I begin to kind of decide. And there are stages to making decisions as well, right? So we got the pre-assumption stage where we're contemplation, where we're contemplating what it would be like if we decided to change from an unhealthy mind to a healthy mind. Who's going to be there and what are the steps? But I start really thinking about the purpose of having a healthy mind. And at that point, the purpose for me having a healthy mind was really to be able to be around for my children. That's the thing that was the beginning of me pulling myself or getting the resources that I needed to come out of that unhealthy state of mind. Right? So at that point, the purpose was, well, you have 2 children and they definitely need you. And they need you in the healthiest state of mind as possible, because if not, you're going to transfer these things to them and they're going to learn how to treat themselves by how they're watching you treat yourself. Sometimes we think it's how we treat them, but really as a child, they're watching to see how you treat yourself. And then they start doing all of those things and seeing if they match up and they can use them to treat themselves, right? And so then that was my purpose, right? And it was enough to help me want to begin to retrain my brain. Back when I was doing it, there was science. If you know Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's been doing this for a long time. But culturally, it was an impossible thing. It's not going to be able to happen. Like, you can't retrain your brain, right? And I had came up in the era of psychology that, and I think that was part of the problem for me too, is I had been taught that by the age of 5, do you guys remember that teaching, that by the age of 5 you already have your personality and that's basically who you're going to be? And did you ever learn that, Dr. Tran? So we did learn that. You remember
Is
that,
it
Hal?
psychology?
It's not anymore.
Oh.
But when I was growing up, yeah, about 45, 30 years ago, that was kind of the thing, that you had your formative years, and by 5 years old, you had developed who you were going to be, and that was just it. And so, being that I'm already an inside person, I used to say introvert because I thought I was, but I'm not really an introvert because I like to be around people and I'm very social, but I am a very inward person as well. I like to spend a lot of time inward too. And I've been like this even as a kid. And so when I heard that by 5, that's who I'm going to be, I kind of believed it. And the scary part was the formative years for me were traumatic, right? We've already talked about that some. So the formative years for me were traumatic. They were spent a lot without my mother. I didn't know my father. The only safe person that, or place really, for me was my grandmother and my grandmother's house and the people that were there, which were my aunts and uncles, right? Uh, but I didn't have that safety and security that a human being longs for from their parents. Like, we are animals in nature as well, but we are the only ones that actually scientifically have been proven that we need our parents as guides to about 21 at least, right? Other animals, you can see them.
Sometimes longer.
I think so. How there might be some other research too that we need to go back on. You know what I'm saying? That's been out there for a while, and nobody's probably. Maybe we should be doing that research and seeing how long, because I definitely think it's longer. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely think it depends on the individual child as well, and how they are and their personality. So it could get different.
Most of the research was done in America, in the Western countries, because you mentioned culturally that was in my culture. Of course, I grew up in the Asian culture, 1 to the teenage years. So in our culture, we believe that always change, you know, and you can change. You can change your mental state, and you can change it throughout your life until the end of life. That's what we believe.
Cool. And I do too now. I do too now. And see how different that culturally we are. And then there's that separation to kind of keep us apart, to make us think that everybody is thinking like we are, when there's already other cultures that are saying, no, you can change to the rest of your life.
It's just such a scary thought to think that a child is locked into a life of frustration,
Anger and fear and
at the age of
rejection
5,
and abandonment. And I was really how I was tormented, really, even in my dreams, you know. And now that I'm out of that unhealthy mind, I reflect sometimes or think about it, because it's so different for me now that sometimes I have to say, like, you really used to think that? Like, but I didn't know that I was thinking that. I only know now because I have a compare and contrast. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm in a healthy state and I wake up saying things like, oh my God, I just love my life. Oh my God, I love my house. I love everything about it. Yeah. Look at what, and then I say sometimes, do you remember days waking up not saying this? Like, I don't know if I was really verbalizing and saying, oh, life sucks, but that's how it felt. That's how it felt, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure I probably did, you know, whether I said it out loud or internally, definitely. But it really is mentally tormenting, how to be a kid and to think that you have to stay like this, and everything that's happening to you in these years, there's nothing you can do about it. You've just been dealt those cards. That's what your life is going to be like. And so as a kid, in your little ability to process, you're processing that this is what it's all about. Life is going to be like this forever. Then I don't really want to be here. So I do remember that. I do remember thinking and really wanting to really believe in life. I would be better if I was dead. Not even knowing what I would be if I was dead, but thinking that like, well, things gotta be better if I'm dead because at least I don't have to do this.
Being nothing is better than the way I feel right now, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of that feeling, right? So, and to be honest, Dr. Trey, we don't really say that as much anymore to children, but some of our behaviors as educators and body languages and verbal things or nonverbal, I mean, are saying to children that there's no hope for you. Yeah, you know. And in their little minds, they're like, I didn't even do nothing. I just was born into this family. So you mean the God that loves everybody is gonna make me suffer and I didn't even do anything? Like somebody's abusing me and then they're going to educational institutions and stuff, and some of the teachers are teaching or treating them like there's no use for you, right? And I do, because I work with children a lot in therapy and different things, and humanly, I have to check myself often and say, do not give off a or energy as if you're in foster care and this is what you've been here 2 or 3 years old. This is probably what's going to be your life, and constantly empowering them and trying to equip them for and using my own story, because a lot of professionalism we don't do that. We definitely are been taught until lately in therapy that you kind of act like a robot. You just yeah, but you never really relate. And I know with people, you're not going to get really too far with a person where they think you're too out of their range. And so I kind of am honest with the kids and tell them like, well, I've suffered from anxiety. I have things that cause me to be anxious. I still have to do um, what I call an emotional wellness plan, which includes mindfulness and self-reflecting and meditation, things that help me to stay in a stable and a settled state rather in an anxious and an unsettled state. And I could see their faces light up when, not because I have deal with anxiety, but because they're saying, oh, this person who has got their life together and now is my therapist, they also have had issues with anxiety. So there is some hope for me. You know? And sometimes depending on what they do, I'm like, hey, I spent some time where I was in trouble with the law, and it's not a now your life is over. It depends on, I was just with a group of adults and they were resistant to yoga. But remember, I was resistant for 14 years. So I can't get mad when people are resistant. I just say, yep, remember your resistance. But I had to kind of explain to them that it starts in the mind. And if you start telling your mind, well, I'm not going to do yoga, I'm too old, I can't get down there, that's going to hurt me, then your mind is going to line right up to that. So when you get down there, you're going to be antsy, everything is going to start hurting. And asking them, what's your purpose? What is your purpose for taking this class or saying yes to the sponsors that you would take the class? So having a purpose, which is a reasoning or desire to have to move forward towards something, to accomplish a goal or a dream. So just thinking about it and understanding, adults, that it changes, it evolves, right? And another thing that I was taught, and it took me so long to find my purpose because I'm a big person with lots of layers, right? And I can do a lot of things and they could be done well, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that is my purpose, if that makes sense. And so, again, another thing I was taught in error is that, or how I interpret it, you have this purpose, you find it, and you stay in it. But what I'm understanding as I grow, that I've always had a purpose, and I do believe this, to empower and to equip others. And I say that because I often find myself in leadership roles that I didn't put myself in, right? Or even sometimes when I say I'm not going to be in the leadership role, I look around and everybody is looking at me and like, well, Tiffany, we think you should do it. And I'm like, I just said, it is right now. It is once I get into my purpose and I know who I am, right? And I'm not afraid of myself. But back then when they were doing that, I was like, I don't know who told y'all I was doing that responsibility. Stop putting that responsibility on me. If it doesn't go right, then the person who is the leader got to take all the responsibility. And remember, I'm traumatized by responsibility, right? Because my parents weren't there and I had to step up and be the kid adult, right? So no, don't give me any more responsibility that I didn't ask for, right? But it seems to always come, right? And so I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was like, Tiffany, you don't remember that we used to always come to your house, and it was two things that we used to play all the time. We would play school or we would play church. And either time, you would have to be the teacher or the preacher. And I'm like, huh? And for a moment, I didn't really remember that. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, those were my two favorite things to do. They were throughout life. My two favorite things to reenact, because kids do reenact life, right? That's what they do when kindergarten, and they're really in. That's what we're supposed to be allowing them to do, to learn through play, not really forcing them to read and know, just allowing them to develop that innocent play through learning type thing, right? And back when I was young, we had the luxury of doing that, right? You kind of learn reading and different stuff at home by elders and stuff like that, but it wasn't a big pressure at school. It was more like, let's see how you play in the house area or how you play in the Lego area. What do you do with that sense of innate ability? So I'm like, yeah, those were my two favorite things to do. We had to play school or we play in church, and I would want to be the teacher or the preacher, which are leadership roles, right? And I start thinking like, well, what are you really doing, right? Because that was really my life too. Like my friends would always come to me with their issues, right? Sometimes I would talk too much and make them upset, because I had to learn that sometimes when people are coming to you, they don't really want you to talk. They look at you like that person, but they just want you to listen. They may say they do, but you gotta listen for the undertone. Like they don't really want me to say anything. They're just venting right now. And if but I didn't have that.
That's good advice for spouses out there.
Yes, it is.
Listen to your spouse.
Yeah. And so,
Sometimes you don't listen.
right. Sometimes you do that, right? It's a balance into everything, and that's what I'm getting to. That in those younger years, I didn't know how to really balance that out and say there is a part of leadership where the person just doesn't say anything and allows the person to hear themselves talking, right? But so I said that to say that when I'm self-reflecting, I'm like, but what are you really doing when you want to be the teacher or the preacher? And it's really more about empowering and equipping others to be bold and to be free and to be fit and to be who they really are, right? Deep down inside. And so, what's your purpose? And understanding and allowing people even into their 40s. Because honestly, I didn't really start really thinking. Remember, I said I had my kids, but then 40, they're grown now for me because I had them young. And so now they're grown. And the purpose switched because it's not them anymore. I can't let them be my motivation now because they're going off to college. After college, they're going to build their own life. They're going to get a little bit more distant, right? They're going to have their own families or their own interests or whatever that is. And so I had to start thinking like, what really now is going to be your purpose? And then it evolved to being more about me. And what is it that I've always wanted to do and to be and to attract, to have in my life? So the purpose and it's still centered around empowerment and equipping, right? But now it's not empowering and equipping my children. It's empowering and equipping other individuals, you know what I'm saying? Like in the school system or the elder community that I work with, the organizations, right? And I think that, again, having a purpose is a central thing to keep you getting up when you don't want to, right? Because things get hard. You don't want to go every day. You can be human, and even if you're doing the wellness management, every day is not just like, yay, let's go. Some days you're like, I just want to lay in the bed. I don't want to do anything, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they'll call it off, you know what I'm saying? And I don't have to feel guilty. But having that purpose helps you to push when you don't want to do that, right? So thinking about and being okay with transforming the mind daily. And if the purpose changes, or for a better word, evolves, because that's usually what it really does. Like I'm saying, I'm evolving in different directions, but the purpose still is to empower and to equip others to be authentically bold, be fit, be free, right, in their bodies. So maybe taking a moment and just thinking about that. So how do you guys feel about purpose?
Like I agree with talk about things evolving. Your purpose will change throughout your life. And even, you mentioned after kids are gone and their own lives, that journey afterwards, the purpose continues to change. The same theme for me, but what I do may change.
Yeah.
To achieve that purpose. And may not be the same thing. Maybe the theme is serving others, but I may be doing different things to serve different group of people with a different goal, not always the same goal.
And letting that evolve, because you do that now. Like, you're here with us. Right? This is part of your service to others. And then you go to the temple with the youth, and you serve them in a different way. At the doctor's office, right? At work. You see how, like, because I see what you're saying. Like, the theme for me of serving is still the same, but evolving in different capacities. It may become a time where the temple service is over, or the doctor's office service is over, and then you move into another space of service.
She does a lot. Of course, I'm not allowed to talk about all of it.
That doesn't mean
She's-
a lot, but
yeah,
I do know that I work from morning till night. That I do know.
Well, I mean, she.
But
And other than
That
that,
was where
too.
I was going.
Right.
Where I was going was that she's a servant. She finds different ways of serving other people, unique to their needs. And it's hard to categorize all the different things. It's not just charity. It's just meeting people where they're at and helping them. She does that all the time. Now, for me, I would agree. When you get to a point in life where your kids are grown and maybe you're retired and maybe you want to do a next chapter in your life and have an opportunity to serve people, I think that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm really thoroughly enjoying it. The kind of people I meet, one part of my law practice, they tend to be people in trouble because of criminal problems, and a lot of the people are exactly like you expressed. They never had a good shot at a decent family. And my hope is that, we can get them to a place where they're functioning, they're healed, and they can have a good shot at life past whatever difficulty they're in. And I really hope that that's true, especially for people that have been damaged psychologically through.
Yeah. And it could be true for them. How it can be. Again, I've had my share of legal troubles, um, physical, domestic, sexual abuse, um, a lot of those things that they may be doing. Um, I didn't get a chance to go to prison because jail was enough for me. There was this when I was like, nah, I'm not built for this life. I can't do the consequences, so I'm gonna have to switch it up, right? Again, finding a purpose, right? Because when I'm going to jail, the purpose was more of survival. This is what I think I need to do, or I think I have the resources to do. But then getting into that trouble and saying, like, okay, Tiffany, what other resources do you have? What abilities do you have? You are really smart. You really can, and retraining my brain from being taught that, because of whatever happened, the parents that I were dealt, you're going to have a bad life, and you got to kind of have a purpose, a central reason for why you think you want to be different than the cards that were dealt to you. Yeah. And it's sort of like a spades game, if you understand that. You can put the cards back. If you get dealt a hand and you look at it, you be like, there's no winning. I'm only gonna have 3 books here, and I need 7. You could say redeal. Yeah. And when I learned that I can, so this morning, I'm driving here, right? I'm driving here, and I have been single for a while by choice. Again, that was another. It was, it was what I needed to do to learn myself. It was the purpose at the time. Remember, I said it changes and it evolves, right? So about 40, I was like, to me, it's really time for you to really get to know you. And I started really saying that you use relationships to avoid what you need to do about you, right? And so I'm like, I'm gonna back off for a while and chill. And it's been a while. It's been enough, a long time, right? So now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to fall in love and to do this thing again or whatever, right? But thinking about it at this age is a lot different than thinking about it at 20, 21, 30, right? So I'm like, okay, what do you really want? Because at this age, they're kind of teaching us, or the big thing is to be concerned about benefits, right? Because you're not getting any younger, you're getting a lot older. You want to have some stable things going in life, like 401k, things we think are stable anyway, right? Yeah, because we're
That's
finding out.
stable than last month. Okay.
Right. Because I thought, yeah, I'm gonna have 401k. I'm gonna be stable. When I started my business, as soon as I started, the money had to go to something else, and I was like, oh, it's not gonna be right. So anyway, but you know, and what are you really? And I'm finding out too that sometimes, well, a huge number of times, marriage is about a business. It's really not about love, right? It is. Oh yeah. A lot of people do that, and a lot of people look at people who would like to have love and life and benefit as if they're kind of weird, at this age. Like, what? You. So first I was like, well, this age, I need the benefits. And then I snapped out because I said, remember, this is your movie and you get to write it how you want to write it. So what do you really want, right? And I was like, well, actually, I want to be in love and I want the benefits. I do. And being honest about that, right? So then I start thinking deeper, like, well, what type of love do you want? Well, I want the type of love that we walk and we hold hands, that's simple, that we can do things together, that, they pour into me spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and financially, and I pour into them the same way. And we have nice things. We're in a good financial spot. We have good investments. I'm like, I want nice insurance. I want nice 401k. I want to have these for myself and for them to have them for themselves. And we come together and we have double, right? And really understanding that before, though, my mind would have said, you can't have that unhealthy mind for me. You can either have love or you can either have benefits, right? And I kind of start going there and what I felt. I know I can, because remember, I get to write this story, right? And I do know people that I feel like have both, right? But I'm just saying how the mind works and how you have to how you have to direct that thought. Because I started really thinking like, well, I'm only going to have love, and what would that look like? And that started going on a little downward vibration or feeling, if you know what I'm saying, right? Then I went over to I can only have benefits, and what would that feel like? And that was a downward kind of spiral too. So, but when I brought them both together and said, no, Jimmy, remember, you're creating this. You're no longer in that state where whatever happens is just what happens. It does if you don't create, but you get to have details and create. And so when I started balancing them both out and saying what I want, then I started coming back into a more lighter and lifted vibration. And I said, I can't have those things because I do know people, right? And even if I don't know people, I can be the first people that do that, right? Me and my partner can be somebody who can say, well, we both wanted love and benefits, and that's the story that we created, and then we found each other. Right? So you can.
Well, congratulations.
Already? Already?
It
Okay.
sounds like you've got a little romance.
And I say,
Well, I don't have a person yet, but you know, hey, once I'm saying that, it's sure to come, right?
Yeah.
well, in Asia, they do look at the birth signs and things like that. So there are times when couples, the two people coming together, when they are not on their own, they cannot achieve their best potential on their own,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but let's say that you say, okay, I want money, I want benefit, I want love, and these two people didn't have much money, didn't have love to start with, but they are compatible, so they come together, and neither of them have benefit, but when they come together, they are so compatible. We talk about wavelength coming together, that surge. So they come together, and all of a sudden they have everything. They have benefit, they have love, they have money, they have everything, because the joint force.
That's because the frequency, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
again, and thank you, because that was kind of the end of my story that I didn't tell, right? So when and it's just kind of how you described it. So I'm like, then I'm talking to myself like I did. So I'm like, okay, well, how does this happen? And so it was like, well, you can only get that though, Tiffany, because that's what you are going to be attracting, because that's what you are. So the more that you become love and benefits the kind that you want, the more that you are attracting that, and you're building that up. And then that person that you're attracting, they're attracting love and benefits too. And when you guys come together, it's like, this flower comes, right? Once we come. So like you said, I heard what you said. It's not like we're not individually successful or doing what we do, but there's some energy out there when you want it that it's not happening until you come with that person. And then it comes to a full bloom. Cool.
That's true for me and Hal to some extent, because if I didn't meet Hal, I wouldn't meditation center, or I wouldn't have private practice. I wouldn't be able to. I didn't have the support. I met Hal, and he supported me all the way.
Oh, I like that.
So
I like that.
And
that
vice
made
versa.
it
I
happen.
mean, thinking about chapter of my life being an attorney. How weird is that, right?
The support.
Being around Trent and seeing what she does for patients made me contribute in a similar way, but a different way.
Right.
Because I'm not smart.
Yeah, you are, because you're smart enough to be a lawyer at past the age that you're like, you're going to learn all this stuff, Hal? Yeah, right?
Well, but I mean, again, it's really neat to see how, like you say, people can come together and just kind of blossom,
Mhm.
and so it's all good.
It is.
And I would wish that for everybody. And unfortunately, a lot of people, like you probably indicated, don't get together for the right reasons. They get together for things other than love or
Everybody's trying to get their need met, whatever their biggest need is, right? And so for me, two things. Really, what I said, and you brought this back to me, really what I said more than falling in love is I'm ready for some support. Yeah, because I know where I am, that if I had a certain amount of support or just the thought, just knowing that that's going to be taken care of, I could propel and do some other stuff that I needed to do.
No.
She's quite, yeah, she's right.
No.
And so,
I failed every time I attempted.
but
Oh,
yeah, just having that support, right? And I lost my other thought.
well, you're gonna, you seek, you'll find, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Oh, okay. I know what I'm gonna say. You go ahead and finish though. I know what I'm gonna
well,
say.
no, I think it's gonna come to you.
Yeah, it is. It is. I definitely believe that now. That's something of a healthy mind that I always say it's gonna come, and especially so for a while, Hal, I wouldn't say it because I was like, Tiffany, when you say stuff, it comes. So don't say it if you're not ready because it's going to be coming, right? And so the support, and then the second thing though is when I thought about people that I feel like I know who do that, who have a relationship that have love and benefits, you all did come to mind. You did. And because I remember telling Tran before, like, once I think we had a session and she wasn't here, and it came out that you are from the Christian background, and she's and I was like, then the next time she and I got together, I was like, how does that work? Because usually there's some type of conflict. I think I might have said that to you too. Like, well, shoot, usually there's somebody fighting for the
I
more.
actually don't think there's much difference. Well, of course, there's Christ, right? But I mean, in terms of the ethics of Buddhism, it is so
So Christ-like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I start saying too that, like, okay, how has a different mind when it comes to the separation of religion and different things like that, right? But seeing how you all can come from not just even different religions, two different cultures, and merge it together. And
It's not like those cultures are that different. Right? Not that different. What I see in her
Mhm.
so much respect that they give each other, students. It's very family oriented
Mhm.
because we're in this country. We are so silent. We don't know our neighbors. Back in our home, you know your neighbors.
Yeah.
You know your teachers.
Well, that's a good way for, again, in this country, to kind of keep control over the masses and stuff, to have that separation of things, because it wasn't always like that. We kind of got there with, and that's part of the agenda though, because if I keep you all separated, and constantly distracted with different things, you don't know your neighbor, you don't need to, you don't know, then we can do more of the controlling that we kind of want to do. So understanding that, but yeah, so you all were almost like, well, I do have examples. Because sometimes if you don't have an example, you definitely don't think it's doable. So that's why I say a lot of times I even tell my therapy clients that, oh, I'm not just sitting here saying, yeah, I know what it feels like to have an anxiety attack or to be living in a state of anxiety. So now, because I'm in a healthy mind, if you pay attention, if I say something like, I have anxiety, then I say, no, I don't have anxiety. I have issues that cause me to be anxious. Because that's really what it is. I don't have anxiety. I have certain things that cause me to be anxious, and understanding what those triggers are, because not all the time is the trigger something negative. And we have to learn to understand that a trigger is not like we used to think a consequence means it's going to be negative, but a consequence is positive too. It depends on the action. And that's the same thing as anxiety, because there's some anxiety out there that gets you prepared for the best thing. I'm sure when you first met Hal, for real, when you first met her, you had some type of anxiety. You like some little butterflies, and that's some good, because you're like, what is this feeling? You were, well, yeah. On yours, right? Yeah. And she was like, please don't kill me, y'all. Please don't get in the wreck, right? Like, it's fun, but that's me on a motorcycle. I used to want to ride and drive a motorcycle, but then I was like, Timmy, you're going to be so anxious, you're going to fall off. How's that going to work, right? I still do, but yeah, it does give me anxiety. And I think that's because once before I burnt my inner leg on the, remember when the motorcycles used to have, and they probably still do, when they had that outside tube, right? Right here. But it's not, it seems like, yeah, right? And that was at a young age, and those tailpipes used to be out, those silver ones that you don't know, and you touch it. And after that, I was like, I don't know about no motorcycle. I don't know, right? So, but again, knowing that that's a trigger for me. Oh, that's the reason why motorcycles are really kind of fun and cool and a cool girl thing to do.
Just gotta wear your jeans.
Yeah, right? No shorts. But when you think about it, right? But again, just reframing those things that, no, I don't have anxiety. I don't. But there are things that cause me to be anxious. I don't have depression, but there are triggers that could cause me to become depressed. Right? And understanding again, what's the purpose? Right back to that. What is the purpose? Even when we talk about meditation and yoga, what's your purpose for wanting to practice this? Yeah.
now I can literally know exactly when the negative thought enter my mind and say, okay, I see you, okay, let it go. So, I'm not going to do it yet. But if you do it that day in, day out, hopefully eventually your mind, it's like weeding, you weed out the negative thoughts, and then gradually your mind is like full of the garden full of beautiful flowers instead of a mixture of weeds and flowers. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's really an awesome feeling when you can get there. So meditation definitely helps me too. I believe that if I wouldn't have started meditating, and although I resisted yoga, I do actually believe now that it was the steps that I needed when I could really handle them, right? And what I needed to do in the process that I needed to take. Right? But meditation definitely was the first thing that I learned how to do in this practice. And I know that it was what I needed because I could not develop a healthy, settled mind without learning how to be quiet. Right? And once I learned how to be quiet and sit with myself, which I say it probably was 30, no, it was about 90 days consecutively. Of course, I may not do it on a Saturday or so, but at least 5 days a week before my brain actually felt like, oh, something else is happening. Something is happening here, right? And I had kind of combined it with a low impact form of working out, like walking daily and running some. That was really my thing. And I think what was happening then is I was resisting yoga. And we already talked about that mostly because of my spiritual, religious background and teaching. And now that I am the poster child for yoga, I really do believe that yoga has always been a part of me and who I was. But through the traumatic experiences, it kind of got filtered out. Sometimes I think that some of the traumatic experiences were that force's way of trying to keep me from finding yoga and finding myself. Like it wanted me to be tormented so much that nothing could help, that I could really just start thinking nothing's going to help, nothing, right? And so yoga was last, but the meditation and the stillness helped me to be open and to really start coming back to who I really was originally and having a still mind. So that's how I can say now, like, oh, I've always been this still type of person. And when they were saying things like, go in the room like Tiffany, they didn't really know that that was really who I was. Like, it wasn't something that a normal kid at 5 does, but it was for me because I'm always inside and observatory, and looking at things like why we change it and why we do like we do. Like I was having a conversation with some friends last night and we were talking about the new slang for the kids. And I don't know what they're talking about. They're going to be in trouble. And I'm just listening. And it's so funny because I'm like, that's the same thing our parents used to say when our language changed. That's the same thing they used to think that we were in for so much doom and we're still here. We're still here. And so finally I interjected and I said, does that sound familiar? And then they was like, what? I was like, remember when our words changed? Theirs was dude and ours changed to bro or whatever. And they were thinking, oh Lord, where are these kids going? They're going to, I was like, everything evolved, you all. And we probably didn't think that, because you never think you're going to be 50, right? You never do. You think that's old and somebody else is going to be 50, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, we probably didn't think that we were going to live to see the switch in things. I was like, but we're 50 plus, y'all. That's half a century. And things should be changing. I was like, in their logo, their language and how they speak and how they do, it seems to be changing.
But the good news is that
we are, and so are that. And what I'm saying though is that they're evolving, and they're just like our parents were saying, "Oh Lord, don't do that. That's going to get you in trouble." And they're evolving. They're not going to use words like, hey, dude. That's not, you know what I'm saying? Now they're going to be, bro, what's up, bro? That's because it's language that they understand. It's on their level. It's their evolution into, and then there'll be the parents and the grandparents that'll be saying, what are you guys talking about? Pull your pants up. We didn't wear them like that back in the day. Oh my God, everything is so sloppy. Do you guys wash up now? You know, because I'm thinking like, oh my God. But I stop and I reflect and say,
pull your pants up.
yeah, everything is evolving and it gets different when it evolves. You know what I'm saying? And it can be scary if you resist it, right? And so bringing it back around, meditation and things can be scary if you resist, because I know that still today, some people say, well, to me, when you do that, you're going to open up yourself to spirits and stuff. And I say, I am the ones that live inside of me. And they're like, and I'm like, those are the spirits that you're trying to find out about. The goal of this thing is to know thyself, and it's to seek deep things of yourself, because what we're doing is really surface.
I wouldn't think that just doing yoga is not going to open you up to dark things. I would think that's a physical practice, just like exercise.
It
lifting
is.
weights,
It is. But it's a
So
little
people have a-
deeper than lifting weights, because it like Trent said, it helps you to go inside.
There's a mental discipline.
Yeah, and the deeper you go inside, the less you can be controlled by what's outside. You know what I'm saying? And the deeper you go out, that takes a number out of the masses of being controlled by everything outside. Because you can go inside and you can see all this stuff happening with Trump and everything, but the deeper you go out inside, the more confident you feel that none of this stuff is going to happen to me, even if you're thinking they happen to my next door neighbor. But because you have this certain connection that everything is going to be okay, that even if something does happen, the tornado, it's still going to be okay. But it's a little deeper. And so we've been taught a lot that, and so I listened to it. But now that I'm back in who I always been, um, even though yoga was last, I say what saved me is I always was a dancer. Because really what yoga is doing though, Hal, really what yoga is doing, it's clearing and moving the suppressed and depressed energy that sits in our bodies, in our tissues, right? So just imagine if you were faced with any type of threat, right? From a bird, from me, a lion, whatever. The first thing that you do is you get strong here, because you got to do what we call gird up, right? So you get strong right here. This is where the most tender part of our body. If we were an animal, it would be called a tenderloin. In us, it's called the psoas. Do you know about yeah? And that's where we hold issues. We in yoga we say we hold the issues in our tissues, right? But this would be the tissue that you hold it in, because you got to get strong right here, right? And then you stop breathing, because if you think about it, you poke that chest out because hey, I'm superwoman, right? And now you just cut off all the air that you need to think rationally, right? The objective of yoga is to still be strong, for your core to be engaged, but not for it to be tight where it cuts off the air, where you can still breathe, right? And whenever we practice yoga, I'm always saying inhale and exhale. Even but when you think about even the moves that you get into, right? So if you're going to get into a powerful yoga move like a warrior one, you get strong here first, right? Because you got to set yourself up. And then I say, it's soft. Meaning now soften the glutes, soften the pelvic, and let that pent up energy inhale and exhale, right? And the beauty of life is when we're inhaling clean breath and air, cleansing each cell, right? Bringing air into the body and letting it expand. And when we exhale, just like the trees, we give off the carbon dioxide and the gases we don't need any longer, and we're cleansing our body with the breath. Right? So that's really all that yoga is doing. But if you tell something so long and people believe it, it begins to be a truth, right? And so for years, I was scared to move the stagnant and the suppressed, remember, from trauma, energy through my life. And the only thing that really, like I said, now that I'm out of it, is that I was always a dancer. So that's still, if you pay attention to me when I'm doing yoga, it's really more in a dance form. Right? It's really, but I was always some type of dancer. Even in church, I was a praise dancer. But that now I know was helping that energy to move. I was a hip hop dancer. I should have been a ballerina, but hey, life.
Jen will tell you that I'm scary.
Okay. Yeah. But whatever one you are, you're getting that energy out.
She has to guard herself.
All right. Yeah, but you're getting that energy out. And that's really what yoga is doing. It's a form of moving, just like Tai Chi. It's moving energy and bringing energy to you, right? And that's what yoga is. And once I really got back to it and was like, oh, Tiffany, God, thank God for dancing in different forms of yoga, but evolving, because that had kind of got stagnant too and couldn't move the energy through anymore. And that's when I kind of embraced yoga, because I was like, okay, let's try this thing. And they connected it to kids. And of course, kids are my niche. So yeah, I can add this to my repertoire of kids and I can save them because they definitely need yoga, not me. Right? But once I started it, oh my God, it's just, some of the yogis evolved to where they don't do the body movements anymore, right? They're doing more of the mindfulness. I don't know how that part for me is going to be, because now that I know moving and actually doing movement to get that energy is a big part of who I am. Yeah. Yes, right, Dr. Chair. Do mindful movement, whether it's walking or marching, or stepping and things like that. But again, even see, the purpose for doing it has changed and it has evolved. But always having a purpose keeps us consistent and committed to things that, again, um, every day my body doesn't flow like I would want it to, but what's my purpose? And so right now, my purpose for really making sure that I practice is so that I keep a healthy mind and body and spirit. Because I know enough now that if I stop, that my brain is really just wired, right? And Dr. Tran probably knows more about this, but sometimes our brains are just wired to think negative. That's just the way that it goes. And then you have to retrain it to think more on a positive level. And that's like the word says, that's a renewing of the mind daily, daily, daily. Because who you were yesterday is not going to suffice for today. You have to renew your mind. Like you said, you get up and you pray daily. You're renewing your mind daily. You're checking in daily. Reconnecting daily. That's the part about when you get baptized, you still have to work out your salvation because it's a daily thing. You went in the water, but if you don't do the work that comes after that, then that goes away. That dwindles down. It doesn't become that big thing to you. It gets less and less, and then faint and faint, and then the next thing you know, you're like, oh, I haven't practiced in a while. Yeah, I can only go about 3 days. That's how my mind is wired now. That it's more wired to the positive Tiffany. And if I don't practice, I start feeling like, What really happens is I start feeling a little tormented in the mind. It's not as intense, but it starts to feel not as light, or it's not as clean that I like. And so I start saying, why are you thinking about that kind of stuff? And then the first thing says is, you're not practicing. You're not practicing. Right? But reflecting on that. And like Dr. Tran said, when you say and you notice that, oh, I'm thinking downward, I have to change this thought. You notice it. It's a feeling that tends to come with it. And then you get the choice to say, am I going to keep thinking on it and make it larger? Or am I going to think on something a little bit more pleasant? Purpose. Yeah. Cool. So we got a little bit more time. Would you guys like to do a short meditation on purpose? Okay. Sure.
Let's hear the music.
Okay. Let me get us some music. All right, so listen, I'm going to play some music, and this music is the words of the music is called Sa Ta Na Ma. Anybody know what that means? No, Dr. Tran, not even you.
You did that the last time, and I forgot what that.
Okay, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Satanama?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Or something.
It is. So
You have to
Satanama,
remind me.
it is life, birth,
Yeah.
death, and rebirth. Right?
Satanama.
Satanama, right? And it actually has some hand mudras you could do with it too, if you like. Sa ta na ma. And um, it it said that, and I do believe this because I've done it, that if you say this or do this practice consistently for 30 days, you get more connected in tune with the universe and the earth, right? Because you're basically accepting, inviting that is the cycle of life. There's life, birth, death, and rebirth, right? However that may be to you, right? Whatever that looks like. And so we're just going to use that soft music in the background, right? But we're going to have a guided meditation. And throughout the guided meditation, I invite you, it's not that you have to, but I invite you to think about purpose, right? Think about purpose when we do this meditation and where you are, right? If you have another invitation that you would like to think about, of course, that's more welcome as well. But if you just happen to don't have one, especially if you're viewing and you want to think about something, just think about purpose and what that means to you, right? All right. So let's get our music going. Cool, right? It does, you see it, right? So I just invite you all to begin to bring your body into a comfortable centering position. And that is a position that feels good to you and your body. And that may look different for all of us, depending on what your body is saying today. So maybe you're sitting in an upright position with the back erect and legs crossed in front in a lotus style. Or maybe the legs are extended out long. Maybe you're even lying on your back. Find that comfortable position that feels good to you and your body. And once you come to that comfortable centering position, the invitation is to begin to bring your body into a comfortable state where you can close the eyes. If closing the eyes is comfortable. If closing your eyes is not comfortable, then maybe you find a focal point that's right in front of you where you can begin to gaze or to still the eye. Whenever we gaze or we still our eyes, we begin to allow the activity in the brain to shut down and the outside distractions begin to lessen. The invitation is there to begin to deepen your breath. And one way that we deepen our breath in yoga is by taking deep inhales in through our nostrils and filling our abdomen, chest, and our lungs with air. And by taking lengthened exhales out, contracting the belly back towards the spine and letting the dry, stale, no longer needed energy and breath come out from the chest, the lungs, in the belly. And you're always breathing. You're always inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. The invitation is there for you to set your intention for your practice today. An intention is an I am or I will statement. Something that preferably, whenever you think about it, it causes you to feel warm and fuzzy inside. And it puts a smile on your face so that when the mind begins to wonder, as it does, you'll just allow that to happen. Resisting the inner temptations to judge, to criticize, to label, or to stop the thought. Just allow the thought, the feeling that tends to come with or slightly behind the thought, and then go back to your breathing. Inhaling and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And our intention corporately today is thinking about purpose. What that means to you when you hear the word purpose. Why are you here? What is my purpose? Or maybe if you know your purpose, you begin to visualize, see yourself in purpose. Maybe it's serving others. Begin to imagine the different ways that you can use your skills and your knowledge to serve others. Serve in your purpose. And what does that look like? Maybe your purpose is to build and to connect. What does that seem like? What does that feel like? Maybe you inspire and uplift. Envision yourself moving in your purpose. Maybe you equip, empower. What does that look like? Who are you empowering and equipping? Where are you doing the work? Really begin to see yourself. Place yourself in that purpose. Maybe you can use the senses to hear what the environment sounds like in your purpose. Are there adults or children, animals or plants? Maybe you're able to taste. What does that taste like? Just placing yourself inside of your purpose. Using the senses. Go deeper to what is your purpose. And notice when you're breathing how light and free the body and the mind feels. How calm and clear. How certain and centered, connected. Mind and the body and spirit feel when you're breathing. When you're inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. On your next exhale, begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe making some small circular motions with your wrists and your ankles. Slowly beginning to wake up the body. Becoming aware of the space in which we are whole. Maybe take the arms up above the head and get a long stretch as if we were first waking up from a good night's rest. And bring the palms together and bring it down into the heart center. And maybe take a few moments and think about the energy that is moving through the body and where that synergy may be coming from as we think of our intention today of purpose. Maybe blink a few times before opening the eyes all the way. In today's session, I'd like to end with a saying that my teachers taught me, their teachers taught them, and that saying goes that we wish that all beings are safe. We wish that all beings are healthy. We wish that all beings find love, that all beings know peace, that all beings can move through their lives with fun and as easy as possible. And then we bow. when we rise, we say namaste, right? But maybe not cut it off just yet. If we want to take some final comments or suggestions, if you have anything that you would like to say, any meditation afterthoughts. Something about meditation for me is I always get a more clear message when I'm being still and quiet and can hear things a little bit more clearly. So if anybody likes to have any final thoughts or comments that
Well, I enjoyed your session very much today. It's a very hopeful session because the lesson I'm taking away is
yes, yes, that's the message. That's the message that people can and do change. Yes, they
I
do.
find these discussion sessions very helpful. It makes me think, and I hope it helps other people think through their thought processes.
Yeah.
To get back to but also in that stillness, not only that I try to listen.
Yes, yes, it does. It does. It does. It does. It's something about being quiet that allows you to really begin to hear others, even when.
I'm not talking to you at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you reflect back on what you heard.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
Yes. So.
think through that.
Yes. Yeah. Because a lot of times we are saying something, but that's not really what we are saying. And you have to be trained and skilled to start. And being quiet helps you with that, to understand, like you're saying, like, that's not really what they're saying. They're saying that. Or maybe it is, and I didn't understand it because I wasn't totally listening. Like what meditation helps me to do too. I used to have a big thing of, because of trauma, I had to always be able to answer, you know. Well, yeah, I do. What were you doing that for? Having to answer. But now meditation has brought me to a space where I'm okay with saying, I don't have an answer. And really listening to process what they ask before I just answer. And being okay with being slow to answer and quick to listen. You know what I'm saying? Like, really, what are they saying? What's the tone in when they're saying that? If they really want me to answer or not, or they just want me to listen. And meditation helps me to be able to navigate through those things and decipher that. Cool. All right.
well, I mean, if people were here, they could have snacks with us.
Yeah, we always have snacks,
So
guys.
come on out.
All right. And if not, we will see you all next week. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to actually be doing this series. I'm going to be